I've made every single mistake when dieting in the past, and that's why now I strictly use these rules. And they're the same rules I get my clients to follow in order to allow them to get lean. The first rule is track every single input. Now this is a non-negotiable. If someone's interested in my coaching but they're not prepared to track, I'll simply just turn them away, because tracking is the bread and butter that will allow you to get lean. If you're not tracking your steps, your cardio, your protein, your calories, your training, your results are going to be very inconsistent. A big mistake a lot of guys make is that they play it by how they feel. So how they look in the mirror, how they fit in their clothes, how they feel, how their energy is. But this is not accurate enough. You'll consistently be eating over your calorie deficit because your hunger signaling will be a lot higher on some days. You'll be not pushing your training or cardio as hard because you might feel tired on some days, and it just gets very messy. So to avoid that, you want to track all your inputs. Now, you can lose fat without tracking. It's not like you can't be in a calorie deficit without tracking your calories, but fat loss just comes down to simple maths. So if you really want it badly enough and you want to make the process as smooth as possible, you must track religiously. If you don't want to track and you think it's a chore, or you think you don't have the time, then you just don't want it badly enough, and be prepared to just stay where you are. The second rule I use to get lean is tracking every output. So your inputs are the things you're doing, your outputs are the results of what you're doing. So this is both your weight on the scale and progress pictures as well. With your weight, you can't just go off how you feel. Your weight is one of the biggest indicators of if you're making progress or not. So you must do this every single morning. Immediately after you've gotten out of bed, go to the toilet and get your fasted weight. So this is before you've drank or eaten anything. And you want to log this somewhere, either on a Google Sheet or an app, anywhere you can consistently track your weight and see the graph and the changes in your weight. The reason you want to do this every day is if you do it weekly or even less than that, there's so many fluctuations that happen day to day with your weight. Sometimes my weight can fluctuate 1 or 2 kilos in one day. So you might weigh in on a high day where you're holding a lot more water. Maybe you ate more carbs, or you had more salt the night before and you're holding on to more water. Or you might weigh in on a low day where you're a lot more dehydrated. And both of these scenarios can be misleading because you think you're heavier or lighter than you actually are. So what you want to do is weigh yourself every day, like I said, and get your weekly average weight. So instead of doing it weekly, get your daily weight and then take all the weights across that week and then add them together and divide them by 7, and that's your mean average. And then you can compare those mean averages week on week, and that will truly tell you if you're on the right track, if you're losing weight and getting leaner. Another great way to track your progress is your weekly progress photos. So I've taken these every single week on my cut, and the photos won't lie. They'll give you a reality check on how much progress you're making. They'll also allow you to see if you're losing mainly fat instead of muscle, which is great as well. And they're also a great motivator when you can clearly see those pictures next to each other and you see the changes you've made, because you see yourself in the mirror every single day and you don't really notice the changes. But when you can look across the span of weeks with visual evidence that you've made progress, it's a great motivator. It will allow you to keep pushing. I went even further than taking the progress photos. I took videos as well, and this is even better because a video is like thousands of still images put together and you can really see the changes that way. But the main point is to get some kind of visual so you can actually see the difference from when you started to where you are now, and it will spur you on to keep going. If you get to the end of your diet and you've made loads of progress, but you haven't taken any progress photos at the start, although it was uncomfortable at that point in time, you'll be thinking, I wish I would have taken those, because you would have actually been able to see all the progress that you've made. The third rule I always follow to get lean is simplicity. So fat loss is very simple. It's very difficult, but it is very simple. So it's best to keep things like your diet, your training regime, everything as simple as possible. If you try and overcomplicate things and you try so many different training styles and you try so many different recipes and stuff like that, it's going to be very mentally taxing. You're going to feel mentally drained and exhausted, and it's going to be tough to continue and make habits that will sustain for a long period of time. I would say the most important part of this rule is with your diet. So for each of your meals, so breakfast, lunch, dinner, maybe a couple snacks as well in between, I would try and get maybe 2-3 variations of each meal that you really like. They're really high in protein, really low in calorie, make you feel full, make you feel energized, don't give you any brain fog. And then just repeat those meals over and over and over again. When you're just eating the same thing every day, it makes it a lot easier. Although it's not as fun as switching it up all the time, it's going to save you a lot of time, and it's also going to make the process a lot less complex. You're not going to feel overwhelmed. You don't need 50 different recipes to get lean. All you need is a calorie deficit. And the best way to create a calorie deficit is by eating low calorie dense foods with high protein that you enjoy. So just find a few of those that you really like and stick to those over a long period of time. It will make the process a lot easier. And with your training plan, you don't need to overcomplicate that either. Just choose simple but proven exercises that will give you your desired result. Choose exercises that you actually enjoy. Enjoyability will help you over the long term. If you choose things that you really hate, then it's going to be harder and harder to stick to it. It's not going to be sustainable, and you're more likely to quit. So choose exercises that you actually like in the gym. And with cardio, do a sport that you like. That's one of the best ways to incorporate cardio, is doing something that you actually enjoy. So for me, it's boxing. When I'm boxing, I'm just in a flow state. I'm not thinking about burning calories. I'm not thinking about the timer going down. I'm just in the moment. I'm leveling up in a skill that I really enjoy as well. And I also use like the generic boring cardio as well, like the incline treadmill, Stairmaster, cross trainer, whatever you want to choose. Something that you can just repeat and is simple. Don't try all of these HIIT workouts and different circuits, unless you enjoy them, of course, but it's going to be a lot easier if you just stick to the simple stuff that is guaranteed to get your result. The fourth rule I always follow to get lean is keeping hunger at a minimum. The biggest reason why diets fail is because of hunger. You have so much of that hunger hormone ghrelin being released, and it's impossible to stop eating at some points when you're feeling really unmotivated and tired, and you get into a calorie surplus and you put on weight and you rebound. So whenever I'm on a diet, I always optimize my diet so that it maximizes the amount of satiation I feel and minimizes the amount of hunger I feel. So you can do this by eating low calorie, high volume foods. I created a whole guide on this, 11 tips to reduce hunger while dieting, so you can go and watch that if you want a more in-depth breakdown. But all you need to know is just eat foods that take longer to eat. You have more time eating. They fill you up, they're full of protein, fiber, but they have a low amount of calories. And this is the biggest cheat code to weight loss, is making sure your diet is as satiating as possible, but has the minimal amount of calories possible. And this is something I drill into my clients constantly. Whenever they send me a screenshot of their food, I always try and look at that screenshot and think, okay, what can we actually sub out to make this a bit easier for them? And most of the time there is small changes that you can make that will make a huge difference and compound in the long run. When you consistently audit your own diet and think, okay, what swaps can I make to make this not only more enjoyable, but more satiating and have less calories in it, then you'll be able to sustain that calorie deficit for a lot longer. You're going to be able to diet a lot longer, and you'll be suffering a lot less throughout the whole process. The fifth rule I always use to get lean is avoiding liquid calories. So liquid calories, so things like olive oil, fizzy drinks, smoothies, fruit juice, they should all go when you're trying to diet and get lean, because they're just a waste of calories. They're not satiating at all. They're the opposite of low calorie, high volume foods. They're high calorie, low volume foods. Even things like protein shakes, although they've got protein in them, they're not very filling. You have 200 calories in a shake, maybe 20-30 grams of protein, and then it lasts like 10 minutes and you want to eat again. I would only recommend these if you're on the road and it's a bit of convenience, but I would not have these as a regular thing in your diet. And with alcohol, a lot of people will tell you, oh yeah, you can drink every weekend as long as it fits into your calories, but I would disagree with this. I would try and keep alcohol to a minimum. Unless you have like really important social events like weddings or birthdays or something where you're going to remember it for a long time, I would try and avoid alcohol as much as you can. The thing is, with alcohol, you can make swaps. So you can choose like vodka and Diet Coke or spirits and minimize the calories, but it's not even about the calories with alcohol. It's more about it lowers your inhibitions. You wake up hungover and depressed and unmotivated, and you're not thinking about your goals anymore. You make poor decisions on the night. You might go out and get a greasy kebab and binge eat, and it lowers your testosterone, lowers your drive to go and train and do your cardio the next day. Every time I've been hungover, I've never thought, okay, I'm going to stick 100% to my calories, I'm going to get right back on it. There's always been a day or two where I just slack off. The reason why you probably drink alcohol is to feel more confident, but what you're actually doing is stealing confidence from your future self. Whereas if you were to limit alcohol and maybe go out and just say, okay, I'm only going to drink one drink, which is, you know, quite rare that you'll do that. Or I'm not going to drink tonight, I'm just going to enjoy my night anyway. And then you wake up the next day and you actually feel fulfilled because you know you did the right thing to achieve the goal that you really want in the long run. And that is what is truly going to make you feel more confident long term. Remember, fat loss is only for a season. Once you're at a happy body weight, you can be a bit less strict with everything and you can increase things slightly and you can have more room to do things that you enjoy. But for this season, you should prioritize fat loss and make that the priority over other things. You can make swaps for liquid calories. So for water, I like to add these little squash pods and it makes it more enjoyable and less boring. With fizzy drinks, diet drinks, also one of the biggest hacks to dieting as well. Not only they're sweet with artificial sweeteners, they've got 0 calories. They're going to help you feel more full and satiated because they're carbonated as well. So those two things I think are great if you're trying to diet and get lean. Okay, rule number 6 I always follow to get lean is to keep output high. When you're on a diet, you do not want to feel like a starving little child on 1400 calories a day. And there's a lot of BS online from many coaches saying, oh, well, planned exercise only burns 5% of your overall calories throughout the day. And that is only 5% if you are lazy and you don't do any exercise. The more you exercise and the more you do cardio, the more you do steps, the more calories you're going to burn. It's very simple. You want to put your output as high as you can to a manageable point, and this will allow you to eat more food and feel more full. What I do with my clients is I start them on a moderate amount of output, so maybe 10k steps, 30 minutes of cardio every other day, and then over the course of their diet, I'll gradually increase that, and it just allows you to avoid hitting a plateau. You'll also get fitter, and the cardio will become easier over the course of the diet as you get lighter as well, so you can start to increase the intensity of the cardio and it will feel the same. And it will just allow you to avoid being food focused the whole cut. The worst part of a cut is just thinking about food all the time. So if you can increase the amount of calories you burn and increase the amount of calories you consume, it's a very worthy trade-off, and you're becoming healthier at the same time. You're going to feel better. Cardio will increase those feel-good endorphins in your brain, dopamine and serotonin. So you'll feel better, your mental health and clarity will be a lot better as well. And yeah, don't skip cardio. It's going to make the process a lot easier. I would say this is your biggest weapon when dieting, is increasing your output. Okay, that was the video, guys. Hopefully you found it useful. If you want my one-to-one help and you're struggling to lose weight, click the top link in the description. If you made it this far, you might as well subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.